Hey, what's up guys, TechTitan here and I'm back again with a brand new video. So before I begin, as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you go ahead and do so. I really appreciate the support. With that being said, today we're going to be talking about the Galaxy A14 5G 9 months later. And this is, believe it or not, is Samsung's most popular phone. And here's my experience with it 9 months later. We're going to talk about the display, we're going to talk a little bit about the performance, the design, and of course I want to talk about the things that I like about it and the things that I feel like could cause a problem for users. So let's go ahead and begin with the design. And unfortunately, while the design is simplistic, straight to the point, obviously this is at the end of the day a budget device. But I feel like the standard with the build quality is not properly met. And I'm not talking about like the way the phone looks or the way the phone feels, but I'm mainly talking about the structural integrity of this phone. So here's the scenario that I want to give you. So I had a case on this phone a while back, and when I took the case out, the non-removable back actually came out with the case, which was a major problem, to be honest. Luckily I was able to snap it back in place and nothing bad happened to the phone. But yeah, that was just like a moment where, oh damn, is the phone done for? So yeah, I feel like whatever adhesive they used to put this phone together was just not it. And I wasn't the only one that had this issue. I had a couple of people also report this issue. So keep in mind that this phone is fragile. As far as everything else, obviously design is such a subjective topic. I feel like the looks, the way that it looks, the way that it feels, it's pretty decent for the most part for whatever it's worth. So now let's switch the topic of conversation and talk about something that's actually good about this phone 9 months later, which is the display itself. And to be honest, this is one of the biggest flexes that this phone has for itself, and it is the display. So it is a LCD panel, obviously not an OLED display, so not the most premium quality, but still is a high quality 1080p panel. So not only that, but I feel like the colors on it are calibrated nicely from its cooler tone. I really like it, and you can kind of mess around with the display settings to your liking for the most part, but I left it as is. I feel like the quality is just there and it's really nice. Now, one of the cool things about this display is the fact that it also supports a 90 Hz refresh rate. And for $199, all I gotta say for that is, hey man, Apple should be a little bit embarrassed. The iPhone 15 and 15 Plus don't even have that 90 Hz flex. So yeah, take that home, Samsung. Alright, so as far as the actual experience with the display, like watching content, watching videos, browsing through social media, again, a consistently enjoyable experience. So definitely a thumbs up for Samsung for bringing us a good quality display on this phone. But the previous generation of the Galaxy A lineup, which was the A13 5G, only supported a 720p not so good panel. So definitely was an upgrade and still an upgrade. And I wouldn't be mad at it if they kept it consistent with the A15 and gave us the same display. Obviously, if they want to flex, they can put 120 Hz refresh rate, but they don't have to, and it will still be a good display. As far as the speaker quality here, take a listen. On it. Side does have the fingerprint sensor as well as the volume up and down. The bottom has your headphone jack, the fast charging USB-C port, and a microphone as well as a bottom facing speaker, which we will get. Alright, so overall the speaker, obviously not the loudest, not the best speaker on a phone, but still is consistently good for the most part. Alright, so now again, let's switch the topic of conversation and talk about the triple camera setup. So here we get a triple camera setup, a 50 megapixel main sensor, 2 megapixel macro, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. For the most part, 9 months later, I would say this. So we've seen a lot of new phones come out since the Galaxy A14 that have, in my opinion, somewhat of a better camera, for better or for worse. But for the most part, as far as taking pictures in daylight conditions, while the colors may not be the best out there and it can be a little bit dim in some scenarios, for the most part it takes some decent acceptable pictures. So detail is there, quality is decent. I did have a couple of issues with it when it came to focus and stuff like that, and the picture may not look or as colorful as it needs to be, especially when Samsung loves to saturate pictures. So that's also something to keep in mind. Dynamic range here was fair, not the best that I've seen, but definitely usable. Indoor photography also took a hit. Obviously the colors are not as accurate and not as poppy and not as vibrant as I would like it to be, but again, overall for the price, for the $199, I would definitely give it a pass any day of the week. Price. The selfie camera could use an upgrade, to be honest. It's not really that good. One of the areas that I found this phone struggle in is the video capability. So the video supposedly can shoot up to 1080p, but honestly, from the footage that I took of it, it mainly looks like a horrible upscale 720p. So not really that good of video quality as far as the capability of the camera. But overall, if we look at the big picture, the camera gets a pass on the fact that it is a $199 device. So one of the things that also took a hit with this phone, unfortunately, is the performance. The battery life on here is still pretty good. I didn't really have any issues with battery life, but the performance itself, I did experience, unfortunately, slow down here and there. So not as good as out of the box, and honestly, like, I kind of expected that, so that didn't really shock me or surprise me much. But even when it came down to the basic task, when you load this phone up with a lot of apps, since you are capped at 64GB of storage, you can pay a little bit more money and get higher storage. But I'm just talking about the unit that I have here. The standard is 64GB. So with that, when you load that up, which is easy, to be honest with you, and nowadays it's easy to load up 64 gigs with how large the apps can be. But yeah, the performance was just, it took a hit. I did experience slowdown. The phone didn't really get hot or anything like that. But as far as, opening up apps, playing games, browsing social media, it did experience a slowdown. So that's also unfortunate. All right. So now let's look at overall the final picture of this phone 9 months later. And here's what I have to say about this phone. While the flaws that it has can be considered major, especially the design, the lack of structural integrity of the design can be an issue. However, I have to say this though, the way that it looks and feels is still pretty good. It's on the thicker side, so it's not really meant to be like a thin device or anything like that. And the camera is fair, it gets a pass. The display is definitely a thumbs up all the way. But for $199 phone, I can see why this is Samsung's most popular device. Overall, for what it's worth, I enjoyed the experience and I cannot wait to see what Samsung brings in the Galaxy A15. Hopefully they fix the design issues as far as the structural integrity. Maybe if I were them, I would put a wide angle lens instead of a macro sensor and make the video quality just a little bit better. I know Samsung is capable of doing that, and I would take that any day of the week, and I feel like would be considered a much worthwhile upgrade. So with that being said, if you have the Galaxy A14 5G, what do you think about this phone and how long you had it for? Leave it in the comments below. I would really love to hear you guys' thoughts, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching.